I can jam for a second, then maybe Fabian's. You're definitely going to pick this up. I can help with the precursor in the beginning of chapter 1, but let me just try to jam for everybody who hasn't been up to speed about what corruptions really is and what's been happening here. So I started out by saying, this is art. It's art that has evolved, and I said some metaphorical things about what it is and what it means. But concretely, it's art, and it's art that when it launched, it looked kind of like a portal. If you haven't seen it, you can find it on OpenSea and elsewhere. Kind of looks like a portal, and it's a portal that's got these corrupted characters spreading through it, plus some words. A word in the middle, a word hidden in the background, and then this concept of insight. And that, again, we mentioned over time, insight grows and grows with time. It slows down or decelerates when it's traded. And that as the insight grows, the art itself changes. And so the art starts to change a little bit from something that looks like a portal to maybe even something else. We've started to think of it as like maybe a shield, or we're not really sure even what it is. But it looks kind of like a portal. And because it looked like a portal, when the messaging contract was dropped a couple days later, or even the next day, and Dom, through that messaging contract, began to speak, it really reinforced this idea that, hey, this corruption, hey, this piece of art is a portal. And through that portal, the first thing that he said was, this is the visible hand, posted in Etherscan in a separate contract. He then posted a couple more things, some like clarifications about almost a bug that we had found in the contract. And then he posted something where he said a gift, and the gift was an encoded block of code that was intended to help us refresh OpenSea so that we could see the dynamic stuff happening as it happened.
I remember when this dropped. It was like a script passed as the data in a message, right?
Yep, exactly. And so what happened there was we realized as a community, there's something going on here that starts, maybe it's not performance art yet, but there's something going on here where the nameless and faceless voice is speaking through the portal to us, clearly giving us a gift. So let's reply back. And we voted as a community. We jammed. It was, I think, Scott and Charuz and I thinking through like what can we send back. And the thing we sent back, if you know the Dom verse, he loves the word sup. And so we wrote our own contract. His was called Corruptions. Ours is called Reflection. The Reflection messaging feed. And we said sup. And then along with sup, we similarly encoded a piece of art. And the piece of art that we encoded was a wilted rose. Maybe I'm getting these out of order. It wasn't a wilted rose first, Charuz, huh? It was the reflection.
Yeah, I think Scott did a reflected corruption.
The reflected corruption.
Yeah.
Hold on, quick question. There's a website that can show this conversation, correct?
Yes.
What's it called?
That's what I was going to grab. There's two. I think the easier one for normal folks to look at is this link. I'm going to put it into our chat here. corruptions-messaging.vercel.app. There's a beautiful website also at corruptions.io. Corruptions.io that has a messaging feed. But the messaging feed on that site doesn't have a decoder feature, so it's kind of hard to tell what's going on. But yeah, if you go to corruptions.messaging.vercel, you can go all the way back. Sorry for getting that order wrong. And so we talked as a community and said, what are we going to send back? We sent back this reflected corruption, like a mirror image, almost an introduction saying like, hey, we're here. And this beautifully encoded SVG. I mean, Scott, maybe you need to speak to this because this is your beautiful art. But we took a corruption, flipped it over and inverted it, and then encoded it as an SVG and sent it back across the chain as a way to saying like, hey, we're here. And we like to think about ourselves as the reflection on the other side of this portal. To which he responded back with the phrase, what do you think you're doing? What do you think you're doing? What do you think you're doing? 64 times, which was just amazing. We said seeking answers. We're seeking answers. He responded back, art. And then there's this whole back and forth, the whole discussion. And then at that point, we sent back this beautiful SVG encoded of a wilted rose, which is definitely a Dom motif. I'll pause. We can talk from there. But Scott, a lot of this was your brainchild and your art. Do you want to speak to the reflection and the rose?
Yeah, Scott, I have a question actually specifically. So the Dom was sending messages to the contract address. That's how he started the communication?
So
there was a second address created for him to send messages out on, which I believe Sharuz spotted. And he didn't have that set up as a way for us to send messages back. So Sharuz created another messaging contract for the community, which we were able to speak through. And I'm not sure how he found out about it. He's got ears and eyes everywhere, I guess. But
because this is my big question, like, how did you? I'm curious in those first moments how you went from, like, anybody could have responded independently, right? But you decided to come together and respond thoughtfully as a group. I'm curious how that was happening on Discord, I guess.
Yeah, I believe it was Sharuz's idea that he recognized it as a messaging contract, and that there's an opportunity for us to make our own contract to respond with.
Awesome. Okay, sorry. So the reflection. So then you came up with the idea to send the first response, which is the reflection, right?
Yeah. So his first few messages were kind of a little vague, talking about some of the corruptions he sent out and some issues and stuff. And then he sent that gift, which was like the OpenSea refresher, because these NFTs change over time. And if you don't refresh on OpenSea, then you can't see that they've changed. So by that time, we were ready to send a message, and we didn't want to just say a message. We thought we would give our own kind of gift. So our gift was like a piece of art back to him, which was this reflected corruption. So it's like flipped horizontally. And we changed one of the words out. There's 10 words that can be represented in these corruption NFTs. And so we added a new word called reflection. And part of that was like visually reflecting the image. And so Sup is, of course, associated with his other projects. He's got Sup the company and Sup Drive, his video game NFT that he's working on. And so after that, we were basically trying to figure out what this project was still at this point. And there were little clues scattered around. And one of the clues was in the contract. I believe it said something. It referenced Unfine Art. And I think it might still be pinned on Dom's Twitter page, but he lists some of his active projects, and one of them is Unfine Art. So we understood this to be just kind of an art project of his. So once he clarified that it was an art project, that's when we decided to send art back to him. So we're trying to kind of like keep the art momentum going. And so on the Unfine Art Twitter feed, I think the only tweet was like this wilted rose emoji. So we kind of did like a Blitmappy version of the wilted rose and sent it through the messaging channel. We base 64 encoded it just like we did with the SVG, but it was a PNG this time. And we didn't know what to expect at that point. So he responds so we say art and we send this wilted rose JPEG or PNG, and he says, "Are you sure?" And we're all just like, what? And he followed up with a Y/N. So he's trying to get us to confirm if this is art at this point. And this was kind of around the time that during all of this, we decided as a community that we were going to vote on these messages and try to speak like for everyone. And so the community voted that, yes, this was in fact art. And so we get another message shortly after that. He says, okay. And this kind of became like the first corruptions meme, is that he started responding with these generic kind of like computer-like responses. So okay became this like reaction meme that we now have in the community. And so I think during this time, he might have uploaded some more contracts to kind of prepare for what was going to happen next. And I think we kind of had an idea roughly. I don't know, Sharuz, if you remember exactly what happened at this point, but his next message was when. So basically he had set up this new contract as like a sort of sub NFT drop, where if you had a corruption, you could participate in this new drop. But he was going to let us decide when we would actually when we would like open the contract for minting, basically. So I kind of got off on a little bit of a tangent there, but I'm following the corruptions messaging app to kind of remember everything that happened.
So this is what it's about, right? It's
in.
About like exploring the lore through the Etherscan transactions, but then it's this combination of very like inspector, like Sherlock Holmes kind of work on the blockchain, but at the same time, a very like human art conversation that you're having through that medium.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to jump in here too, Scott, like everything you said, absolutely. And I'm even remembering the feelings of those like skin tingling moments of like, wait, self-discovery, and we are part of the players of this game. And maybe to put a meta comment on the whole track you just said, our early first week was almost just like trying to get our eyes open, trying to find a light switch in the corner of this room, and just trying to figure out like, are we even players here? Or are we just fucking around? Or like, are we actually players as part of this community? And like, maybe we're even part of this project. And because at the beginning, we don't even think I remember not even realizing that we were part of the project. Not even realizing we were players in this project. And so a lot of this back and forth was us like, what was that movie with the communication with the aliens and those pods?
Arrival.
Arrival. It's like us in Arrival, like testing words and testing concepts to be like, who are we? Not just who are you, but who are we? We get this project. We can see it on OpenSea. We can read the code. But the who are we was some of the most compelling back and forth. Like, are we part of this project? And that was so exciting to see through the portal, Dom as a game master embracing the role of the community and really playing into this performance art that there's physical art, digital art that's on the screen, but then there's also this concept of the performance art of the community saying, we're making art too, we're making reflections too, we are participating. And so that arrives us to that point that Scott just called out, that at some point Dom said, when do you want this next chapter of the game to launch? And that was a pretty pointed question to the community, like, you vote. And so we actually did a whole vote to decide when to launch it. We had different days and times and dates, and we responded back with like an actual ABCD list for him. And that itself was not the exciting part, but the exciting part of that moment was the validation that, this is a collaborative piece of media.
So, Scott, are you're hanging out in the Discord, you're making these decisions collectively and then sending transactions and everyone's watching them with anticipation as, they wait to get processed, or what's the vibe like?
There was like, the vibe I would say was just kind of confusion. Like nobody knew what was going on or what was going to happen. And I remember specifically like being concerned that we were messing with this project. Like I had some ideas that I didn't really want to pursue, which actually we ended up doing later with the community NFT, because I was worried that like, he's just doing this interesting thing and we're kind of messing with it by like, putting stuff into the project that he didn't ask for. It turned out that it all worked out and things evolved together, but I don't think he planned for us to be involved in this way, but he completely ran with it as soon as we started like expressing interest and sending messages back through our contract.